If you're struggling with anxiety and depression and you're looking for a safe alternative, then you have come to the right place. You may have even been wondering lately, what can I take for anxiety and depression that's safe and effective? Well, this is what we're going to be covering in today's video, and my top picks may actually surprise you. So let's jump right on in. Hi, my name is Dr. Kelly Shockley. I'm Doctor of Cause Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine, and specialized in clinical nutrition. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the most common mistakes you're unknowingly making when it comes to addressing anxiety and depression. Then we'll discuss the little known connection that's keeping you feeling anxious and depressed. And finally, we will reveal my top picks for helping with anxiety and depression that will surprise you and are generally safe to take with most medications. Let's get started. Okay, what is this most common mistake you're unknowingly making when it comes to dealing with depression and anxiety? Okay, let's be real. Most people think that depression and anxiety are a type of mental health issue. And so when that is the thought process, the approach is just trying to deal with the anxiety and the depression. Well, one of the perspectives that I have that's a complete shift is looking at these as symptoms, okay? Symptoms are your body's way of telling you something is wrong. They're your warning signals that the body will give you. So where could these symptoms be coming from? Ultimately, my perspective is that anxiety and depression are a sign of a brain health issue. These aren't mental health problems, they're brain health problems. Just like somebody who has cardiovascular problems or heart disease, their body may show that there's a problem with that system by having them have high blood pressure, or maybe they have heart palpitations, or even like a fast heartbeat known as tachycardia. We wouldn't just try to approach their health by looking purely at blood pressure and high pulse and, just this heart palpitations. Those are all the symptoms and the signs that there's a bigger issue. Now, maybe traditional medicine may approach things this way, but when you work with me, I try to figure out what is the root cause of these symptoms. So when we're dealing with things like lack of focus and concentration, brain fog, short-term memory issues, those are brain health types of symptoms. But guess what? So is anxiety and depression. So ultimately, in order to really figure out why you're dealing with these symptoms, we have to shift our focus to what's not working right with the brain. And these are not necessarily brain chemical imbalances. It might be more simple than that, because that sounds really complex, right? Ultimately, what you need to know from this, guys, is if you get the brain right and we are doing life that helps to keep the brain healthy, when the brain can function optimally, so will the mind. So get the brain healthy and the mind will follow, not necessarily the reverse order, which is oftentimes how this is being approached. Does that make sense? So I'm curious, have you been making this mistake before? Is this like an entirely different perspective than how you've been viewing your anxiety and depression? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear back from you, or, kind of where your thought process has been in dealing with these issues. Okay, I need to share with you the little known connection that might be keeping you feeling anxious and depressed. What in the world am I talking about? Have you ever heard of this brain-gut connection? In case you haven't, I'd like to share a little bit of detail on this. First of all, as far as the nerves go, which is the communication highway systems from your brain to everywhere else in your body, there are more connections between the brain and the gut than there are anywhere else in the body. In fact, there's different neurologists and other practitioners who would love to call the gut the second brain of the body. Ultimately, the key here is what is going on in one system will affect the other. Whether it's what's going on in the brain can affect the gut and vice versa. So let me just share a little example of that. Have you ever felt so stressed that all of a sudden you were in the bathroom because your guts decided they needed to unload, like diarrhea instantly? What is that about? Or have you ever gotten ready to do a performance or speak in front of people, or you're meeting a potential date for the first time and you get those butterflies in your belly? When we feel nervous or we get stressed, sometimes our gut gets very involved in that whole process. Well, the reverse is also true. You just may not notice it quite the same way. So if our gut is angry or it's not functioning the way it should, maybe this shows up in your life already as feeling bloated every now and again, sometimes having a little bit of gas, which is totally embarrassing. Maybe just having some indigestion or abdominal pain, or, fluctuating between constipation and diarrhea. If your gut is not working correctly, more than likely, your brain isn't going to have a fighting chance to be functioning at an optimal level. And again, how does the brain communicate to us that things are not working properly? Well, you could start feeling anxious. or you could be feeling a little bit more depressed. Or again, some of the other types of brain-related symptoms like brain fog, lack of focus and concentration, short-term memory problems, even headaches. So, what is so important about this is if you really want to try to deal with your anxiety and your depression naturally and through a safe alternative, then one thing you might want to do is really evaluate the level of health of your gut. It has been said that 80% of Americans have guts that are leaking stuff into the system. So it's known as leaky gut syndrome. Now, what in the world is that? Ultimately, what you have to know is your gut is like your first line of defense. It protects you from anything and everything in your environment, whatever you drink, whatever you eat, even with influence over the air that we breathe. Now, I know it's inside of you, but technically, nothing you eat or drink or swallow, like none of that actually is in your body until it's moved from the gut into your bloodstream. So when a gut is leaking, what it means is this first line of defense is allowing different substances, whether it's like a partially digested protein, or maybe there was pesticide on your food, so that could get in. Maybe it's a bad bacteria. What happens is when that system's not intact and things are leaking, those substances I was just saying and so many others can actually leave the gut and go into the bloodstream. Once anything crosses over into the bloodstream, now it is in your body. Well, guess who lives on the other side of your digestive system in your bloodstream? Your immune system. And when these weird substances make it through that are not supposed to be there, the immune system is there to police what's going on. It's like, aha, there is a foreign invader. We need to set out the alerts. So an alert goes out and your immune system starts to respond. Something that we've learned over just the last 5 years is that this immune response, so where all the policemen show up and there's all the ruckus. It's like when you're driving down the highway and there's been an accident and everybody comes to screeching halt and they have to look as they're driving by. Same thing kind of happens in the body. This whole alert system happens and everybody's aware. But what we've learned is that response sometimes doesn't happen in the gut. It can end up elsewhere. So if that response is actually happening more in your brain and in your nervous system, you could be experiencing brain-related symptoms, such as your anxiety and your depression, brain fog, lack of focus, concentration, all of those that we've been talking about so far. So we are missing a huge piece in working on helping you get healthy and get a handle on anxiety and depression if we're not looking at your gut function, okay? There is significant research that shows if somebody cleans up their diet and they start eating what we know to be healthy, which is good fats, clean proteins, lots of vegetables, but lower in all the rest of the carbohydrates. It's amazing how we can have more mood stabilization just as a result of that. Okay, before I get into my top picks for dealing with anxiety and depression that are going to surprise you probably, I just want to give you a quick reminder to click that subscribe button down below, turn on the notifications. I don't want you to miss out on a future video. I am regularly creating content around this very topic, plus everything else brain health related, and ultimately what I like to call helping you achieve total body mastery. So click that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and you'll never miss out on another video, which is going to be awesome. All right, are you guys ready? What are my top picks for helping with anxiety and depression that may actually surprise you? Well, number one would be vitamin D. You may have already known about vitamin D because there's starting to be more awareness of it. But what I find is most people have no idea what vitamin D really does. We know that it helps strengthen with bone and teeth. And after the year of COVID-19, there's more awareness that it does do a lot with our immune system, which is great because it's key for the immune system. But what people don't completely know yet is that it's huge for dealing with anxiety and depression and anything else brain health related. The brain is heavily dependent on vitamin D in order to function at an optimal level. I do a lot of blood tests in my office and with my people who I take care of that live all over the United States. And one of the markers that I always test is vitamin D. And one thing that's been really interesting over the last decade or so that I've been doing this is every single one of my people who has come to me with a diagnosis of anxiety or depression always has critically low levels of vitamin D. So it's huge. Vitamin D is also known as the sunshine vitamin. When I hear that, I think of the joyful, happy vitamin, right? Well, Dr. Google, at the time that I did this, said that only 46% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. Out of everybody that I tested in the last number of years, which is hundreds of people, thousands of people, only a couple have actually had normal levels of vitamin D. Only 2 people have actually had too high of vitamin D levels. Majority of everybody has low levels of vitamin D, And then, like I said, any of my patients with neurologic brain health related types of diagnoses, including anxiety and depression, all have very critically low levels of vitamin D. So vitamin D is definitely one of my go-tos. Though, before you just decide you're going to start supplementing with vitamin D, it is really important for you to know where you're actually at. Vitamin D is one of the fat-soluble vitamins, which means it is possible to get too much of it in your system. It doesn't just simply get removed, like the water-soluble vitamins do with after our body uses what it can. So it can accumulate, you can get too much. And to really kind of drive this point home of how serious it is to actually know what your vitamin D level is, if you start getting too high of vitamin D levels in your blood, what is going to happen is it's going to start leaching calcium from the bone back into your blood. If your calcium level starts to really increase in your blood, you're at risk of a heart attack. It's called hypercalcemia. You're also at risk for kidney failure. So either way, you could be completely up a creek or dead if you start supplementing vitamin D in order to have too much in your system and get too much calcium in the blood. So as I stress this point, it's because so many of us self-medicate, and I've been guilty of doing this before in the past as well. But just know, while you're more than likely probably safe because you're probably deficient, it's better to test. That way you're not guessing, and then you can rest assured. That's something I can help you out with. Or you go to your local healthcare provider. They should be able to run a vitamin D test on you really easily. Then you'll know. That will give you a better idea then of how much vitamin D you should be taking as well, okay? All right, my second most favorite thing for helping with anxiety and depression are your omega-3 fatty acids. This could be commonly, found in your fish oil supplement, or if you're not a fan of that, you could do flax oil supplements. But these guys are key because they're the building block of your brain. About 70-80% of your brain is made up of fat, and we are not getting enough of the healthy fats in our system in order to even have the building blocks that our brain needs to repair and regenerate brain cells. Majority of Americans are very deficient in omega-3 fatty acids because what's found in our food supply readily are omega-6s and omega-9s, which are more inflammatory producing fatty acids. So you could eat a ton of fish. You could actually still get the same ratio of omega-3s to 6s from grass-fed, grass-finished beef as you could salmon. But the sheer reality of it is there's no way you could consume enough fish in a day to get the right amount of omega-3s into your diet. So having a diet that's rich in wild-caught salmon, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, all other game meats, nuts and seeds that also have omega-3s is super important. But this is one of those supplements that we really do need help with, or one of the nutrients we really need to supplement with. And then the last one I want to share with you is not one you would think of specifically for anxiety and depression. It goes back to what I was sharing with you about gut health. And this would be probiotics. Probiotics are all of those good guys, the good bacteria, that we need in our guts in order for this thing called the microbiome, which is like this ecosystem that lives inside of our gut, in order for it to be balanced. There is significant research done showing that when you clean up your diet and you make sure people have a healthy microbiome, and part of that includes adding in those probiotics, that mood improvement and regulation really enhances. Probiotics, I think most people know one of the sources to get these from is yogurt. This is not really the source I would recommend because oftentimes these ones that are highly marketed actually have a freight load of sugar in them. And by the time you ate enough, which is about 30 to 40 tubs in a day, you consume so much sugar that you killed the good guys and you fed the bad guys. So either eat no fruit, just plain full fat yogurt that's been cultured, great. You're still gonna have to get more probiotics in. Normally I recommend anywhere from 30 billion little critters per pill each day, which is really impossible through your yogurt. And then you wanna make sure you're eating foods that actually feed them. So that's where your prebiotic stuff comes in. That's what you guys have probably heard about, fermented foods. So there your kombucha tea, your kimchi, like sauerkraut, things that have been fermented, not heat treated, mind you. Like if you're going to start consuming sauerkraut, don't get it off of the aisle that's not refrigerated. Go to the perimeter of the grocery store where the refrigerated section is and get it over there. It's not heat treated. That actually will have what you need to feed all the good guys in your guts. Okay. So probiotics are the other piece that's really key for helping improve mood regulation and helping with alleviate anxiety and depression. Now, in general, none of these should really interact with any potential medication that you may be on. But my disclaimer is this: I'm not your doctor. I didn't put you on any of the medication you may be on. So it would be in your best interest to double check with whoever is responsible for putting you on the medication to make sure that it is safe for you to take the vitamin D, the omega-3s, and the probiotics. That way there is certainty that nothing is going to interfere with the other thing, okay? So definitely check that out before you just start going with my advice, okay? That would be really important. Now, if you're serious about being able to start healing back from dealing with anxiety and depression, then I have a gift for you. Down in the description below, there is a link. That link takes you to a free copy of my ebook, From Sluggish to Unstoppable. This shares with you the exact process that I use with all of my patients near and far, and it will tell you exactly how to figure out how to resolve anxiety and depression, how to determine what is happening at the root cause, and then be able to give you the roadmap for getting back to like reclaiming your health, taking back full control, and getting rid of anxiety and depression once and for all. So again, go down into the description below and find that link and click on it immediately. Awesome, guys. I hope this has been really helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again on a future video. For now, take care and God bless.